So as I said, I'm Kerry Garrison. I'm the VP here at Multicopter Warehouse. I run the enterprise sales team here. And today we're going to talk about some Tether systems. But for those of you who don't know, we try and do a webinar every week on different topics that are relevant, mostly enterprise related. The only exception to my normal schedule is we're doing one today that you're on, and we're doing one on Friday to talk about the new DJI enterprise products that are going to be announced tomorrow. So that's going to be pretty exciting. We'll have a lot of information about the different models and things that are going to be available, hopefully price points and availability. So be sure and join us on Friday here at the same time as right now on the 8th, so that's just a couple days away. And then we'll skipping next week, and on the 20th of May, we have Jason Sherbert from Remote Pilot 101 coming on and talking about the current state of Part 107 certification. So you can always see our list of upcoming events and webinars at multicopterwarehouse.com/events. So be sure and check that out. Now, I am definitely not a Tether expert by any stretch, and I have the person who is, which is Todd from Vigil, and he's going to be kind of running the gamut here and teaching us about Tether systems, what they're used for, and the advantages of the Vigil system. So welcome aboard, Todd.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I got your email address on here, so if you want to send you your questions directly, they can. If they're interested in getting the product, they can, of course, just contact us here at Multicopter Warehouse. So I'm going to figure out how to turn this over to you and let you kind of take it from there. Where'd you go?
I've got a presentation. It's 25, 26 minutes. And if anybody's got some questions that are relevant in the middle, then let's see what we can do about getting them answered. If not, we could we'll go at the end here.
Excellent. Well, you've got the con, my friend.
All right. What do we see on the screen? Let's see. Which screen is being shown? What do we see up there?
I see the bale of hay with the people standing on it.
All right. Well, that's my kids. Let's see if
Excellent.
we can. Yeah. Let's see if we can get that moved over a little bit. All right. Nope.
Excellent.
Almost getting there. Let's see. Let's. I want the sharing. Show screen. Stop screen. Change presenter. Just bear with me here. Let me see if I can get my slideshow up on the right screen here. Any idea how to do that? Let's see.
While he's getting that going, I'd like to ask the people that are listening here: have you been already looking at Tether systems, or are you just starting to look at them? Starting now with this webinar. So is it something you've been looking at, or something you're just beginning to start looking at? I think that'd be some interesting information.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's. Let's just go with so as not to bore people here. We're just going to put this up here, and if you see it, you see it, and that's that. So.
Well, we see it.
All right. There we go. All right. So I am one of the co-founders of Vigil, and we started this company in 2015, in the summer of 2015. We originally started working with a technology coming out of the University of Kansas, and when we started looking at the Kansas technology, it was an interesting technology, but it wasn't exactly going to scale for us. It was a tethered system that was going to be able to be used without any sort of flight control systems. And when it was originally designed flight control systems were really, really expensive. When we started working on it, oh, good. Hang on. I just think I figured it out. When we started working on it, what we figured out was that if we started from scratch and started building our own system, we would be able to get a much nicer system than what the University of Kansas was providing for us, but we were never going to be able to come up with a drone that was that nice, that was that good. And so we decided that we were going to abandon the idea of making our own drone and just focus on the tether systems. And the idea was that we were going to make a tether system that was going to be able to be used with any drone on the market, any commercial drone on the market. And that's sort of the direction that we've gone into. I'm going to talk about not just ours, but a bunch of other tether systems that are available on the market. I've got really nothing negative to say about any of them. This is what you see on the screen here is the demo loop that we show at the trade shows that we're at. This is about 90 seconds. It's it's just a demonstration on how it fits together with a DJI Inspire 2, how easy it is to put together, and how easy it is to fly. This is not the sort of thing that, this is not a tutorial or anything like that. We're happy to teach people how to fly with the tether once they acquire one for themselves, but it gives a good indication, it gives a good feeling for what we're trying to do here. Anyway. So that's that. Okay. So as we all know, the bane of the existence of the drone market now is the fact that the batteries only last about 30 minutes. They last anywhere from, and that's on a good day. I mean, it depends on what payload and what you're trying to do, but 30 minutes is about a normal operating length. I think the drones that are being announced tomorrow may have a slightly different one, but we all know how that works. We've seen these in the past where people are saying, yeah, we can get in the air for 60 minutes at a time, but that's only under the most ideal conditions. There are limitations, obviously, to using a tether, but if you're not going very far and you need to keep this thing in the air for more than the 30 minutes, a tether is a good use for that purpose, for that mission, whatever it is. We never, when we put this thing together, we thought that we were going to be supporting missions that were maybe 4 or 5 hours, maybe 6 hours long. We thought of, say, a chemical spill or a fire or something where you might be on scene for a very long period of time. And then one of our customers went out into the desert into 130-degree heat and tried to crash this thing. They flew it for 48 straight hours with a Matrice 210, and it wouldn't crash. It just kept going. It was never designed to do that. We never suggested they do it, and we were sort of surprised that they had the courage to try, but they did. And so now we have some indication that it's going to last a lot longer than we originally intended it to. I don't think that's really a realistic use for the technology, but if you need it, it's there. Use cases are reasonably straightforward. Once again, we have a very limited range of motion. We have to stay within 150 or 300 feet of our system. Those are the two tether lengths that are available. But you can stay up in the sky forever. So if you're doing surveillance, security, crowd monitoring, incident or situational awareness like a bomb squad, chemical spill, traffic accident, something like that, a sporting event like you could keep this hovering over the 9th green at a PGA tournament, and you could have it there instead of the blimp. TV and film for prolonged scenes, traffic monitoring, and I'll get a little bit more into that, but we've had stadiums buy these or buy our system so that they can help with the traffic flow going in and out. Communications, that's a good one. We've had search and rescue, or not search and rescue, but first responder teams use our use our tether and put a radio repeater on the drone and put it 100 feet in the air, and that in hilly terrain provides a really nice ability to increase the usefulness of the communication systems that you would otherwise not be able to use. So yeah, if you're not going very far and you need to stay in the air for a long time, tether is a good solution. Our technology, a lot of people have said to me over the past couple of years, when I tell them that our systems retail anywhere between $7,000 and $8,000 and a little bit more for the extended length tethers, that seems like a lot of money for a extension cord. And I guess it is, if you think about it, though. What we have is a tether that has, it's very light. It's about 13 grams per meter. It is very thin, about the width of a piece of spaghetti, and it's carrying 1,500 watts of power from a ground source up to your drone. It does it very, very cleanly with zero latency, and it has the ability to increase and decrease the amount of power going up within microseconds, depending on the draw from the drone, a gust of wind or something like that. So there's a lot of technology that goes into this thing, more than meets the eye. And it took a lot of time and money and effort and failures to actually get a system that was reliable enough to be accepted by public safety organizations. But we have it now. Our system takes regular 110 or 220 AC input from a wall or a generator or an inverter. It converts it on the ground to 400 volts, which goes up that little piece of spaghetti line. It's converted down to the drone voltage on the drone, so it goes from 400 volts down to 24 volts for the drone that you see here on the screen. The spooling system that we have is reactive, meaning it doesn't push or pull anything. It pays out cable when the drone moves away from the case, when it goes up or sideways, and it spools back in again as it gets closer. That means you don't have to manage it yourself. That's kind of nice, but it doesn't come without a cost, and it doesn't come without complexity. The cable, as I mentioned, very, very thin and light, 13 grams per meter. The entire system that we're selling now is about 30 pounds in a Pelican case. You can very easily carry it around in the trunk of your cruiser, or you can check it on an airplane. It fits into the overhead bins very nicely. And our system, it can be used with any commercial drone. It can be used with the DJI Inspires or the Matrice 200s. From what I understand, it should be compatible with the new systems that are being introduced tomorrow. We have to make we need a little bit of time to get a adapter to fit to it, but it should be compatible. Oh, the other thing about our system compared to some of the other ones, you can take the tether off the drone in about a minute, and you can put it back on in about a minute. So a drone that you have already in your fleet can be retrofitted with this thing, used with the tether, then taken off the tether, flown as it was originally intended, then put back on again, and you can all do that in the field with zero tools in a very short period of time.
I got a good question here for you. Is there a battery backup for landing in case there's a power failure?
Yeah, that is a good question. On the DJI drones, we have to, the adapters that we have to incorporate the use of the DJI batteries. So yes, the batteries that are the TB55s or the TB50s or the TB47 batteries that are on the drone stay on the drone. On drones that are not DJI, that use a generic 24-volt system, we can fabricate, or you can buy a Y connector that goes between the arc voltage converter, a backup battery, and the drone itself. And what will wind up happening in both cases is that in the event of peak power needs that our system cannot reach or is not fast enough, a little bit of discharge comes from the battery, and then when the drone is in hover and in relatively quiet conditions, the overhang will charge those 24-volt batteries back to the voltage, back to the.
Wait, so if it has to use the onboard batteries and then the power from the tether comes back on, it actually recharges the onboard batteries?
Yeah, well, not in the case of TB50s, the answer is no, but on everything else, the answer is yes. It will.
Okay.
Okay, so just because of the smart batteries themselves. So the TB50 or the TB55 batteries, the latest software version prevents, you know, the the power from going back into the battery, but the drone should run without any trouble off the tether without having to use that battery. If the tether does fail for any reason, someone trips over the power cord, the thing spontaneously blows up, who knows? There are batteries on the drone, plenty of time to land safely.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you're taking off with fully charged batteries, 48 hours later, you probably still have fully charged batteries. Or is there a small drain?
There is a drain, and the reason there's a drain is because the batteries that are when they're fully charged, the 6S battery fully charged has 25.2 volts. The tether cable voltage is about 23.5. So what's going to wind up happening is that battery on the drone is going to drain down to the tether voltage, and then will level off and stay there forever.
Okay.
Okay.
I got a question. Is the system compatible with the Matrice 600 Pro?
Well, no, but and I'll get into that in a minute. The answer is we don't have enough power on our system. Alistair has got a top range system that provides 2,500 watts, and that will power the Matrice 600.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the limitations of flying with a tether. I like to tell people it's a little bit like driving a car with a trailer versus driving a car without a trailer. The tether has to be put onto the drone in such a way that the drone is within its balance and weight limitations. So we don't really recommend flying with, say, a Mavic or a Phantom, because every inch you go up, you have to carry an inch of cable. Those small consumer drones, or just the small drones in general, don't have the payload capacity to carry the extra cable. For the commercial drones, the Inspires, the Matrices and such, we have designed brackets so that the cable is put into the center of the drone. In the case of a Matrice, it's behind the gimbal and in front of the batteries. In the case of the Inspires, there's other anchor points that we use underneath the drone, and they're mounted to the cable in such a way that no matter what orientation you are from the ground station itself, the downward force is always in the center, and you want to keep that in mind. It's still a downward force, though. There's still cable to carry. So if you're a full 300 feet in the air, you've got an extra 3 pounds of cable that you have to consider when you're calculating your weight and balance. If you're only 30 feet in the air, then that number is down to less than half a pound, and it's a lot easier for the drone to manage that. It will respond faster. It won't struggle as much to stay in the air. And you have to sort of keep in mind that just like driving with a heavier trailer, you can be a little bit more aggressive at those lower altitudes, but you're still carrying a trailer. You're still carrying that cable, so you have to consider it. You have to make sure that it's in the right place. The other thing I tell people is that the reactive spool does not push or pull anything. If the drone can't fly on its own, so if you go out and you fly in a very gusty wind and it's so gusty that the drone can't keep its position, and it winds up going to the end of the cable, it's going to try to keep its position, but it's not going to be able to, and then you're going to have a pull from underneath, and it's going to go into an unrecoverable attitude, and it's going to crash. That has never happened, at least not in the field from one of our customers. We've done it just to see what would happen. But we have an alarm on our system and markings on the cable that will alert people if they're getting close to the end of the spool. We want to make sure there's a little bit of room. If there is gusty wind, we want to make sure there's room for the cable to maneuver a little bit. Also, in a gusty wind situation, the cable will bow to accommodate the wind. On our system, we only have about 1,500 watts of power, which is quite a bit. It's enough for about 10 kilograms of drone. Someone asked about the Matrice 600. That's more than 10 kilograms. You're going to need more power, and that's not the system that we currently offer.
Okay. Couple of questions here to kind of add to that. Is there a means for disconnecting the tether and being able to fly away?
While it's in flight, the answer, we don't have that at this point. We have been, that's been a request by several people, and we've looked into it. We have higher priorities at this point, and we're probably going to wind up doing that eventually. But once again, that's a little bit trickier because now you have to consider that you have a cable that is carrying 1,500 watts of power that's going to fall straight to the ground. And you got to make sure that, you know, there's a safe way to do that without hurting the tether or the people around you. So it's not as straightforward as it sounds.
Okay. Are you compatible with the Matrice 100?
Yes.
Okay. And here's a good one. Does the use of the system invalidate the DJI warranty or enterprise coverages for their products?
I have no idea. That is a good one.
Ah, okay.
I don't think it does, and the reason I say that is because we have had some aircraft, DJI aircraft that we purchased to experiment with in the lab, and in the process of our own experimentation, we've had some failures, as you might expect. And when we've sent it back to DJI to have repaired, they've never charged us for it. So,
and my understanding is they have a revised warranty policy as of the beginning of April, if I'm correct, that as long as the third-party component was not the cause of the failure, then it's considered to be under warranty.
Okay, well, that's good to know. That's good. Okay.
In that case, I don't see that this would interfere with the warranty unless it was the tether system that caused the failure. So I think that's pretty much how it would go. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Yep.
I will mention this though, and that is that the batteries for the DJI products do need slight modifications. When you modify the batteries, they can be used with and without our system. I cannot speak for our competition. I really don't. I'm not familiar enough to know exactly how they work, and they don't really want to show me, so I can't really tell you. But the modification on our side is a couple of notches that are carved into the guide rails in the back, and the reason you have to put them in there is because we have an adapter that goes between the battery and the drone. That's how it interfaces. That battery obviously has a little bit of width to it. So if you try to slide battery in with the adapter, it's going to stick out just a little bit. When it sticks out a little bit, it's not going to click into place. It's not going to snap in. And when it doesn't snap in, the drone is going to give you a battery error saying that the batteries are not properly locked in. You can carve a notch about 1/4 of an inch in width, and we have a jig to help you do that. And also, sure, Multicopter Warehouse can do it for you if you prefer. It's not very hard to do. It takes just a few minutes. But without those notches, the batteries will not snap into place. But if you do put the notches in, you can also use the battery as a normal battery. So it's not going to say you have to only use it with the tether. All right. When not to use a tether. You have to think about what mission you're trying to accomplish. If you're only going to need to be in the air for 30 minutes, then there's no point. If you need to move longer than the tether length, there's no point. If there's lightning out, for the love of Buddha, please don't fly with our tether system. Okay, it's not gonna work out well for anybody. I mean, if there's tree limbs that you're worried about or power lines that you're worried about, I mean, you have to think about what your operation is involving, and look around. There's things that you're going to have to add to your flight procedures that are unique to flying with a tether system, and we're happy to provide that additional checklist for you. But it's still an additional checklist that you have to keep in mind when you're flying with this extra thing. It's that extra trailer, it's that extra load that you have to be aware of. If you're using it around people, that are throwing frisbees around, I mean, are you in danger of getting the frisbee caught, in a line, or are you going to wind up tangling up in branches or whatever? Think about what you're doing, and you can figure out if the tether is right for that mission based on the specifics of what's happening. Once again, the nice thing about our system is you can take it on, you can put it on, take it off anytime in a matter of minutes without any tools. Okay, a couple of features that you should consider when trying to figure out which tether system to buy. We've already spoken about, our system only goes up to 1500 watts. There are more powerful ones out there, so you have to consider what drone you're using and what your mission is. We have an optional data downlink. It costs about $2,000 more than the system without it. There are lots of wireless off-the-shelf options available that cost less than that. And there are people that just find that inadequate, that need more security than whatever wireless options are available. We can provide the data downlinks if you absolutely need them, but you'll pay for them, so you have to figure out if you actually need them. We have reactive spool on our system. There are systems out there that are simpler, and you can manage the spool manually. Once again, depending on your mission and how involved you want to get, there's upside and downside. Those ones with the manual spooling are they're simpler, and they're just less things to go wrong with that. But at the same time, there's new things to go wrong with it, so you have to consider it. We have two versions available, well, 2.5. We have one version that is 50 meters of cable and one version that is 100 meters in cable. And the half of that is we also sell an extension tether. The extension tether, though, does not go inside of the box. It has to be managed manually. The extension tether is 30 meters long. So if you buy the 50-meter system, 150 feet, and you decide that on occasion you need more length, you can buy the extension tether for about $150 and use that when you need it. Basic physics, though, keep in mind that when the further out you go on the spool, the longer the spool, the more voltage drop you're going to get for the same amount of power draw. And it really doesn't matter whether you're 300 feet in the air or 30 feet in the air. The spool is the spool. The line is there, and whether it's wrapped around the spool or whether it's all the way extended, it's still 300 feet long. And the electricity has to get from the source to your drone. So you're going to have more power draw on a 300-foot line than you are on a 150-foot line. And if you're coming close to the maximum capability, you may not be able to use the entire spool or the entire system because of the limitations. Also, keep in mind, 300 feet is a lot of feet, and optics that can produce good clarity at that distance are heavy. So think about what it is that you're doing at that altitude, especially for a long period of time, and decide if that's really what your mission is. If you really need the altitude for whatever reason, then okay, great. Well, we can sell you the extended length one. I don't have anything negative to say about any of my competition. They're good people. They started in the same ways that we did, all around about the same time. I encourage anyone who's looking at a tether system to check out the competition, and I'm confident that you'll come back to us. We are by far the best deal in the tether market right now, but you can make that decision on your own. All of these people have advantages and disadvantages. The ones with proprietary systems, that means that there's a drone and tether combination that can't be separated. You can't use the drone without the tether, and you can't use the tether without the drone. But they're pretty good at what they do. Photokite has got a system that is designed to interface with fire trucks that, from what I've seen on the video, looks kind of neat. And it's expensive and it's not very flexible, but for that particular purpose, it really does a nice job. Just take a look around and do your research. If we're the right solution for you, then we'll be very happy to work with you. As I mentioned, we have the most flexibility at the best prices in the market right now, and we're improving all the time.
One thing I would mention on this is, in terms of comparing other ones, make sure you really look at the specs, because I had a company send me a unit to try out a while back, and it only worked with 220 volts. Like, what good is this? Like, who carries a generator that does 220? The inverter in my Jeep doesn't do 220. None of the command vehicles I know around here put out 220. The thing was useless. Like, but I got to be like within a few yards of a washing machine somewhere that I can plug in. It just didn't make any sense. So be sure that you really look at the specs before you get into anything. We do have a good question here about, have you found any tricks to changing the controller batteries with the without the aircraft wanting to return to home because it will lose the link? Well, there's a couple different ways around that. First off, keep the controller charged. If you're using like a Sendence remote, you can just plug into that and keep that battery charged indefinitely while you have it on. That's definitely one way. The other is to go into your return to home settings and just set it to hover. And in which case, if you turn off the remote, it'll just sit there until the power runs out, or enough time for you to put the battery in and turn it back on and reconnect. So I would just recommend running a power source to your remote if you're going to be sitting there for a few hours, just to make sure that your battery doesn't drain. So that'd be my take on that. Okay, well, I'll turn it back over to you. That was all the questions we've had so far.
Okay, one of the nice things about flying with a tether system, by the way, is that while legally there still has to be a pilot in command, you really don't need to spend much time flying it. Once you set it and point it in the right direction, there's not much else to do. And if you have a backup battery on the system, which is in the case with every DJI system, in the event of something going wrong, what happens in the event of critical voltage is the thing is going to go into auto land anyway. So if the power fails and you haven't caught it because you're really not paying attention, then it's just going to go and land itself anyway. Like I said, you still legally need a pilot to be, legally in charge of flying this thing, but it's not a very exciting flight because it's not going anywhere or doing anything. And there's no reason that person can't only pay half attention to what's going on and do other things with the system. Another thing that is kind of neat in this market and with our company in general is that when we first started selling these things, we had some early adopters buy them, and they came back because of failures that we really didn't anticipate and didn't test for. And under normal circumstances, a consumer buying something, especially at this price, might be angry, might demand their money back, might threaten to sue you, who knows. In our case, they called us, they sent us an email, they sent the system back, and they sent a bunch of suggestions where we could improve things and send it back to them. They didn't want their money back, they wanted it to work. We don't have that problem anymore. We have a lot of units out in the field for different reasons, but it's a new industry and we're finding interesting uses all the time. and interesting ways people are using and we'll say abusing our system as well. And we're interested in knowing more and more about how people are using our systems and how we can improve them so that they're more adaptable to different things. We've had our system at the Indy 500 and the Daytona 500 in the infield, and the race organizers were willing to let the drones fly for purposes of capturing race footage, but they require that it be on a tether, which made a lot of sense to me. They don't want it flying into the traffic on the track when these cars are going 200 miles an hour. And when it's on a tether, that's really not a problem. We have currently, right now, Federal Express at the Memphis International Airport using our system to experiment with management of assets on the field, actually on the airport itself, operations and their equipment. And when it's on a tether, there's not a whole lot of chance it's going to get off onto an active runway or into an area where it's not supposed to be. We've had NBA teams use it for traffic management at their stadiums. We've had anti-poaching organizations in South Africa use our system. There's really a lot of interesting and creative uses for tether systems that we're finding people are discovering and asking us to modify or adapt to. We've had a Canadian Fish and Wildlife organization ask us if we could figure out a way where they could use it off of their ships for monitoring purposes. And with that, we have now some possible entry into other maritime fields and commercial shipping and cruise ships. So we're willing to work with you if you've got an interesting idea. Our bandwidth is not huge. We're a small company, but we're happy to help with engineering purposes if you've got something that I didn't cover here. We have several hundred units out in the field right now, and I could provide whatever references you need for your use. The systems that we're selling now, we've had a lot of success with. Nothing catastrophic, only a few minor instances, and a lot of times we can fix those in the field, and if we can't, then we'll replace it. And we've had to do that a handful of times, and we just do it. And we don't argue about it. We want it back. We want to figure out what happened. We want to improve the quality of what we're doing, and we're interested to know, what's going on and prevent it from happening in the future. So that's it. That's my presentation. And if we have any additional questions, I'm happy to answer them for you.
Okay, we'll give it a moment here. See if anybody has anything else. But thank you. I mean, that was very useful for me. I mean, I definitely learned a few things there.
Okay.
And I'll go ahead and take things back here. Okay. Any additional questions out there? Doesn't seem like it. Todd, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on.
Hopefully all the questions were answered, but if not, I guess you can talk to Carrie or talk to myself, talk to me. There you go.